Kia ora and welcome back to the continuing story of my track. So today I am going to look at putting in a sound effect, so a wind effect. Let's have a look at this. So I'm just going to go up to my workspace under the Windows menu and open a new workspace. So this is kind of the default browser within Pro Tools. Now I can navigate to where I keep my sound effects. So this might be for you. You might have just downloaded some sound effects, some royalty-free ones online, or you might have, sourced them from a library, that sort of thing. So I want in my categories here, I've got weather. So there's a few different winds. I'm thinking about a bit of a background wind on my harbour scene. So one that I think might work, just stretch this out so I can see the names. Light winds with wispy gusts. That's not bad. I'm just looking for something low in the background. Look at this one. I like the idea of cold birds. Because there is a bird sitting right there. I think I'll go with light wind 4 with cold birds. So of course if I'm bringing anything out of workspace, at the moment this is on a different drive. If I want to copy it into my session, I'm going to just hold the Option key or Alt if I'm working on a PC. And this time I'm just going to drag it straight into the clip list over here. There it is. Everything being in alphabetical order. So here's light wind 4, cold birds. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to first of all zoom right out. Actually, I might just leave that in the background just in case I want to go back to it. If I zoom right out, I can see I need something this long. How long is this file? Okay, so I've got a sound effects library with some longer files in them, and obviously a couple of minutes of light winds with cold birds is going to happen. Let's just see how that fits into my basic plan. So it makes quite a difference. I might just bring that down. I want the wind to be kind of in the background. Still a bit loud. Cool, so you can hear the cable, the electrical cable in the background here, which is obviously a bit too loud as well. Let's just bring that down a bit. Good little tip for those of you who like the workflow of Ableton and maybe FL Studio. If I want my edit window to look a bit more like that, some of you I see have got your plugins and your maybe sends even on the same window here. As long as you've got your I/O set up there as well, you can just open up a floating fader for each of these channels, so it gives you the ability to mix. Just sort of throw you that up as an aside if you prefer to just work in the one window. I'm pretty used to jumping between the two, so I think I will stick with that. I'm just right-clicking on the name when I want to remove things, but it's useful to know that fade is there if you just quickly want to fade, or if you're doing an automation pass and you want to see what's going on, which I'll do in a subsequent video. So at the moment I'm still just placing things. So as you can see with the wind, I've got a really light, long, non-repeating loop. This is the sort of thing that I might have gone and recorded like I did with the harbour Atmos. So if I solo the harbour Atmos, I just sat at the beach and tried to be quiet for a couple of minutes. as the waves gently lapped. I actually sat in Onehunga Harbour, and that was there's traffic noise in the background, but I filtered it out. So I made sure I had a long piece because I knew my clip was about 2 minutes long. So I made sure I recorded about 3 minutes. I in fact recorded a little bit more. I did 2 or 3 different ones because there was a bit of, traffic in the background and sometimes noises intruded, and I knew I'd have to cut that out. So I've ended up with this harbour Atmos here. This is just a light wind, but you could easily go and record wind as well. Some of you I know have gone to do that. So if you've got a bit of wind without too many other noises kicking in, you should be alright. If you only find a small sample, or maybe your file itself is quite small, let's just go and find a piece on here. So I'll just pretend, let's say, just jump this up a bit so I can see the level. Let's say, I'll just solo it so we don't have zombies. Let's just say I pretty much want the wind to be like that. Obviously quieter. Now you see that noise there. It's the sort of thing that we'd pick up if I try and loop this wind. That's going to be a repeating feature that's going to keep going over and over again. So I probably want to try and find something a bit more neutral. So maybe that section there. See, that's only 20 seconds. So that if you think about it, that's going to loop roughly 6 times around, probably more. And you see the different intensity of the wind here to there is going to move around. I might just come back here. And it's got a bird. Now you see that bird's going to pop up again. So that's a bit blustery. So what I've got there, I'm just going to trim this. So Command T or Edit, trim clip to selection. Just means this is it. So if I duplicated this, so let's start it at the beginning, and I duplicate it. So that was just Command D, or you can go up to the Edit and duplicate. Hold a clip, and it just creates exactly what you've done. So there's a little bit of noise there. That's pretty easily fixed by just bringing my fade tool in. And notice how that dips. One of the things I can do with fades is if I go Command F or Control F on a PC, I can change my shapes. So I could actually go for maybe equal power and straight lines. So we get this sort of pushing up, and it's a bit like, you remember I was talking about pan law, how there's a dip in the middle where the two files meet. If we look at the different view, probably won't see too much here. Actually, no, it doesn't make any difference, just because it's low level noise or wind. So here, this should be a little bit more, because it's in phase, should be a little bit more flat. Let's try that out. Yep. So that's going to work if I just had those two. Yeah, but because I've got more, what I actually want to do, I'm just going to undo back there, is I'm going to see, I've seen that that works. I'm just going to cut this off. I'm going to move this clip over here so that the files are laying over each other. And then if I cut about here, wrong one. I'll use the S key to cut the end off. I'll just zoom right in and make sure I didn't get any leftover bits. Cool. So now I can crossfade this at the end. And because I've put the start of the clip underneath the end of the clip, I'll just go back and do my fancy fade. Equal power. I see I got a bird in there, that's no good. I forgot there was a bird at the start of that clip. So I'm just going to undo my way back, maybe cut it here. Move my clip here. Cut that off. Hopefully now when I crossfade, I won't be getting any birds sneaking in. So what I'll do is just try this out as a loop. Sounds pretty good. I'll just double check my crossfades. I'm just double clicking on that to bring up the fade window, and I can go to equal power. Okay. So I'm just listening for the consistency. Now what I can do is make that a file. So if I go edit, consolidate clip, let's have a listen to what this is like when we loop it. In fact, I'll just duplicate it and then we can hear across here. Yeah, it's a pretty seamless transition because we've already got a bit of the start file blending in. So by the time we get to here, we're blended in fully. It doesn't always work that smoothly, but now I could go through and just duplicate that all the way through to the end. I could also, and this is useful when you're doing music production as well, there's a key command up here in edit called repeat, Option R. So if I've got one thing, I can say Option R, how many times do I want to repeat it? Let's go for 8 times. It's about 18 seconds long. Is that enough? Yeah, more than enough. So I could have gone 17 times. I'll just edit the last one down because it's probably going to fade out anyway. And now I've got my looping Atmos track. It goes pretty smoothly. This is the sort of technique that they use in games where you don't want to have a 2-minute ambience track. You might just want to have one track that loops pretty well so that the game engine can loop it. So this is quite a good trick for making a short file go endlessly without any artifacts. But you've got to be careful because the human brain is very, very particular at picking things up. So if I take this footsteps track, for example, even without the visual looping of knowing that we're watching it or listening to a loop, you could tell there were distinguishing features, and our brains are wired to pick this stuff up. Yeah. So just be very careful when you're creating that initial one that there's no distinguishing features. So there I'm using my floating window to mix it. Of course I could use clip gain to set it up, a bit right. But for the work in progress presentation, you're allowed to do some basic mixing. You just don't want to do too much, especially automation and things like that. So there's a good setup. If I was going to do clip gain on that, I would of course make a clip group, which you should be pretty familiar with now, and that can allow me to apply clip gain. Where am I at? A minus 11. Clip gain, let's just go minus 10 on the clip, and that's just group clip gain. So if I ungroup it, and that's something you might want to check out, if I ungroup it, that clip gain's not been applied to the individual members of the clip group folder, and I can regroup to go back to the group. So I could go in and edit, change my loop, regroup it again, and apply clip gain there. So this is going to be my wind loop, which is nice and seamless. I probably would always, in terms of preference for reality, I would probably actually go for the bigger file, so I can drag that in. But I thought it might be a useful tip to show you how to get that seamless kind of looping for ambiences going. I'll probably end up doing the same thing for fire.